There's five-time All-Star Al Horford. Him and the Celtics battling the big men in OKC tonight. But let's check in with Celtics head man Brad Stevens, who addressed the media pregame.
They're a great offensive rebounding team, and it starts with Adams, but it's also because you can't, easily keep those guys in front of you. I think you have to pay so much attention to Westbrook and Schroeder and coming downhill, and it creates rotations. And then they've got really athletic wings that crash well, and then Adams is ridiculous on the glass.
Brad, you guys are near the bottom of the league in drives per game, the amount of drives. Is that something you're concerned about, and how do you get more action going to the hoop?
Well, I think two things. Number one is you want guys to do what they do best, and we've got to get our drivers in better positions. Not everybody's going to be a driver for us, and going to be a guy that really goes downhill and creates for others and those type of things. But the guys that do, we have to get them in better spots, and we have to be more cognizant of that. I mean, we haven't gotten to the free throw line. We haven't really created any rotations with drives. We've done some in the post, some with rolls, but not as much with drives.
Is Kyrie's struggles in the first half, are those of concern, or is it too early to, is there any focus on that from your standpoint?
First half of games?
Yeah, first half of games.
No, I haven't thought about it.
Coach, when you talked about Dennis Schroeder, how has he kind of changed what they're able to do on a night-to-night basis?
Well, I mean, it's early in the season, but I think and Westbrook's only played one game with him, so it's hard to tell exactly how they're going to rotate and do those type of things. You can tell from one game, but it allows Westbrook to play off the ball. It allows him to play off of actions. If then you have to close out to Westbrook or close out to Schroeder, they're even harder to guard off a live dribble than when they're coming downhill at you. And so both those guys are elite, and Jay talked about it, getting into the paint. Those guys get in the paint with whoever's on the court anytime. That's just what they do. And we need to do a great job of trying to limit our help and keep them out of the paint, which is easier said than done.
Back to rebounding without Aaron tonight, how much more responsibility is placed on the guards?
Well, we're always that way. I think Aaron has not played a ton of minutes this year. We've played mostly with one big in the game this year, and we're always going to have to be a wing and guard rebounding team. And even when he's in the game, because when you're engaged guarding Adams, good luck blocking him out and getting the ball. I think that's a really hard thing to do. Sometimes you just have to block him out and let everybody else get it. And so everybody's got to be engaged every time a shot goes up for us. We say it's a five-man rebounding proposition, and they really challenge that.
Same starting five?
Yep.
First triple-double of the season by 2 assists, getting shots up early. You will see him at 8 p.m. Eastern on TNT as he and the Thunder look for their first win of the season, taking on the Boston Celtics. And now, Chris Webber joins us. He's calling the Thunder-Celtics game on TNT. C. Webb, good to see you.
What's up, Ro? Good seeing you, brother. Good seeing you, man.
Oh, yeah. So on Players Only, baby, the other night there was a discussion, you, Isaiah, and Kevin McHale talking Celtics, the starting five specifically. They haven't looked in sync at times and how each player should focus on making plays for others. Now, currently they rank 9th in assists in the NBA. What are your thoughts on that lineup and what they should do to improve?
Well, right now, I just talked to Coach Stevens before the game, and when you look at their numbers, they're shooting about 7 more threes a game. They are shooting about 4 more shots a game. But what's crazy is that they're just missing right now. I heard Kenny earlier in your segment talk about it's too early to judge a team, and I agree. I think I like doing it in 10-game increments and not taking the first stint seriously till 20 games is over. But right now, it just seems like they aren't playing fast enough pace, and that they're deferring to each other is what Coach Stevens said. But when you look down that bench, and you guys got guys like Marcus Smart, who doesn't need the ball, or you got Rozier, and they have a bench that has a better energy right now than their starters. And so usually it's like if you miss shots, you don't play D till you make some. Well, they've been missing a lot of shots, and their D has been pretty good. So the Celtics are happy about that, but they have to find a way to get some rhythm, because right now their bench is playing much better than the starting lineup.
Well, C-Webb, I get all of my information from my son, Malloy.
Yeah, he has a game in the family. What up, Malloy?
So this is a true statement. This is what we talked about. He says usually the Celtics are able to dominate the wings. He says, but with Oklahoma City, with Russell Westbrook and George and now Schroeder, they don't dominate the wings. Do you agree with that?
That OKC doesn't dominate
No,
the wings?
that Boston won't dominate the wings like they have been throughout the Eastern Conference.
Yes, I agree with Malloy. In the first 3 games, Boston hasn't. But a 20-year-old Tatum might say, man, Malloy, you've been watching me because I'm coming with it. And so I love what Tatum has done. And you may see Brown go to the bench or not. So I agree that they haven't been dominating, and that's been the problem. But they have been holding on defensively. They've just been missing a ton of shots. And if they would have knocked down some shots, the first game they shot bad, but if they would have knocked down some shots, I think that we'd be talking about their forward or front line just in a different type of way. I'm interested in seeing tonight. Just think about it. Tatum going up against Paul, Kyrie going up against Westbrook. You know, nobody's going to be let off defensively, and they switch everything. So I agree with Malloy, but I would just say, hey, that's only 3 games, and I think we're going to start to see that change for Celtics.
Okay, I got it. Sending that message back home.
Man, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm scared because he know the game. He might tell me, you're wrong, Uncle Chris. You don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, man, so back to Tatum. You mentioned him a number of times. You're looking forward to seeing the matchups. He has superstar written all over him. We saw what he was able to do in the postseason, and clearly it's carried over to this season, hitting big shots down the stretch against the Knicks. Now, can the C's continue to ascend with him beating the leading scorer?
Well, that's the question right now. But, you know, I would say for Kyrie, I mean, if you take your shots within the system, that's all you want. You know, the only thing you can guarantee is your effort on the floor, not shots going in or out. So if I'm the Celtics and talking to Coach Stevens, if they're worried about shots going down and that's it, not effort or anything else, they should be pretty happy. I mean, 3 games, you can have 3 bad shooting games. The numbers are going to even out. Now, in talking to Isaiah Thomas the other night, I said, Zeke, is it that Kyrie is not as good? What is it? And he said, well, no, it's a difference. He said last year he would pass to Jaylen Brown, and Jaylen would look around and go, okay, your turn back. He passed to Tatum. Tatum go, oh, you got this. Now when he passed it, Tatum like, I got this. I'm taking it. I know what I can do against my man. I've shown in the playoffs. So I just think these guys are trying to figure out their new roles, their new identities, and how to make it all work together.
And I want to end with this. You know, we talked a lot about these Celtics, and, you know, we're talking about a team that hasn't won a game yet in Oklahoma City. You know, how good do you think they will be? And what is the switch that will be turned on when it's turned on?
I think they can still go to the Eastern Conference Finals, and it'll be between them and Toronto. But right now –
No, I'm talking OKC.
Oh, OKC. I'm
OKC.
sorry. So how good can OKC be?
And, yeah, and because we're talking about a team who hasn't won a game yet, and when that switch comes on, what's going to be the switch that turns it on?
Let me ask you a question, Kenny.
Okay.
Can
Sound
they
like,
turn
you
it
sound
on?
like Malloy again. Ask me a question with a question.
Exactly. Hey, I learned from the best. Can you know, Boston, they're not shooting well, but they're going to.
Right.
Name me one shooter on OKC. That don't, not Chris Paul or Westbrook. Name me somebody you would pass to shoot a jump shot.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
You know what's
So that's
they
the answer.
do have Alex. I think
Abrinas.
it's
Abrinas. Yes.
Abrinas. Yeah,
Yep.
Abrinas is
Yep.
the only
And-
guy who, you know, can knock down shots, but he's never knocked down shots that meant anything, if you know what I mean. So he hasn't
Right.
hit the
And maybe
shots
he can be a
in the
Stockton.
playoffs.
Maybe he can.
In
right.
the meaningful games, he's come in at end of games and go, man, 4 or 5 shots, or he's come in the middle of regular season games. But when the money was on the line, we have not seen him yet. So we can't say he's JJ Redick. Right.
Right. And when you guys were in Houston, Mario Elie, people might not have known how great of a shooter he was, but when you guys passed it to him in the corner, I knew he was going to make it.
Knock it down.
So, okay, so I guess, you know, whose reputation precedes them?
None.
Who
There
on the
are
floor?
none.
If Dirk goes 0 for 20, I bet you he can space the floor by standing in one spot of the floor during the game.
Right.
And so I just really think, man, OKC is really missing out. I don't know if you can name me the last shooter that they had, and I think they're going to have to address that, because when you have a guy that averages a triple-double but can't pass it out to a guy to knock the shot down, I just think they're going to have to, for the playoffs especially, when you can double-team Westbrook and do other things like we saw them do in Portland, you're going to need shooters. So I think theirs is more about talent than it is about effort, whereas I know the Celtics can shoot. I still don't know if OKC could shoot, and I don't know if they shot that well last year or the year before if it wasn't Durant, Westbrook, or George.
See, Webb, the numbers definitely reflect that. OKC last in the NBA, shooting 23.9%. You'll be great tonight calling that game. We'll definitely be watching.
Oh, thanks, man. I'm enjoying it. I'm going to go back in the locker room before the game and eat some popcorn and check out the rest of the show. Appreciate y'all, man.
No doubt, C-Web. Thank you. Thank you. The offensive struggles for OKC, I know you say they're a veteran team. You're going to wait to see after 20 games. But just looking at this on the screen, it doesn't look good for OKC, but it also doesn't look good for Boston. These two are both veteran teams. Which team can come out of it quicker?
Well, I would say 2-2, you're not in anything. But, if you win the next 5 games, you're 7-2. So I think overall, OKC, Chris Webber hit a great point. But will they be able to be a penetrating team that can score easy layups? Can they get in transition more? With Russell now, you say, well, we should be able to. So that is what they're banking on as they probably are feverishly looking on the board for who's available as a shooter. Because, again, there isn't anyone who knocks down shots to spread the floor. But Russell and Paul are honestly good enough where they don't need as much space to get to the rim. So it's right at this point of their career. They don't need as much space. So we'll see if they're able to do that.
We definitely will see. That game is on TNT, 8 p.m. Eastern tonight. That's where you will see Russ and the Thunder looking to get win number 1, taking on the Boston Celtics. And there is one of the best centers in the game as far as getting offensive rebounds. You know him, Steven Adams. You see him tonight as well. Thank you, Chet.